The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily resemble those of WPSL, staff management, and ownership. However, we are the ones that encourage you to like and share them on social media and share them with all your friends, because it's time for the science of caring. Careology with your host from CareBag Inc., Roxy Brown.
Thank you, Cliff. How are you doing?
Oh, still doing.
Still doing?
I can't believe it,
Monday messed me up. I still think it was a Monday.
I've just been amazed since the weekend that I didn't suffer a fatal injury.
With your squirrel moves.
Well, I had hip surgery in the last few years, and still a little shaky now and then. But I actually tripped and fell on Sunday, and you know what happened? It was amazing. It was like a squirrel in midair. I just kind of swerved around and landed on my hands and knees.
So Cliff the Ninja.
Or the squirrel.
Well, thank you.
Ninja Squirrel.
Ninja Squirrel. Yeah. There you go. Well, thank you, Cliff. Welcome, everyone, to Careology. My name is Roxy. I'm the CEO and founder of CareBag Incorporated, where our mission is very simple: to provide access to proper hygiene to those that are in need for the wellness of our community. So we deal with families in need, the homeless, anyone. It doesn't matter, from ages 0 to 100 and plus. We don't do food. We do all proper hygiene. With the pandemic, with influenza, with the flu, with everything going on, we need our community safe. And CareBag is happy to go ahead and provide this assistance to our community. Careology is a weekly, you have tuned into Careology, where we are a weekly show every Tuesday at 6:05, and we promote the science of caring, sharing knowledge and education with the community on the resources available that we can go ahead and we can support our community any way possible. And we are just so happy that you're with us. If you are coming back, welcome. And if this is your first time, thank you for tuning in. You are going to be pleasantly surprised. We have been talking the whole month about being grateful and having gratitude. And I am just thankful that I woke up on the right side of the bed this morning, that my feet hit the ground. And I think my guest will definitely agree with me. Right, Pastor Haynes?
I certainly will.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, I told everyone over these last couple of weeks, I am ecstatic. I have Pastor Haynes. This is my pastor of the Treasure Coast Church of God 7-Day right here on Savona Blvd in Port Saint Lucie. I think I've been going, how old is Manny? 9?
He's 8.
He's 8. So that means I've been going here 9 years.
Yeah.
Because I met him, he's in the belly at the time. There we go. So this is my pastor for the past 9 years, and I am just in awe of him. He's a good man and a good man of God and wise. So Pastor, hey, we're just going to get right to it. We're not even going to jibber jabber. We'll talk about other stuff later. Pastor Haynes, tell us a little bit about, because I know you're now recently retired. So,
absolutely, yes.
So tell us where did you retire from?
Well, I was a public school teacher, taught at Southport Middle School for the last 13 years before I retired in 2019. It just so happened I retired a couple months before
the pandemic. So, and this is a wise man. So not only is he a pastor, he was an educator, and as you know, we are big on education here at Careology, because without education, our children cannot learn. And we take our hats off to our educators, our teachers, our first responders, our essential workers. To me, teachers go under essential workers, because without teachers, we cannot progress. Our children, none of us can go any further. So we are so happy that you're with us. So everyone, I have picked the topic forgiveness. And the reason I picked this topic is because that's a big problem for me. And I have started, Pastor, to let it go. I've talked to Pastor Haynes about this, and I told him that's one of my big things. But one of the benefits, I was looking on the Mayo Clinic. As you know, guys, I love to do my research. And what the Mayo Clinic is saying, what are the benefits of forgiving someone? Letting go of grudges and bitterness can make way for improved health, peace of mind. Forgiveness can lead to healthier relationships, improved mental health, less anxiety, stress, and hostility, lower blood pressure, which means less headaches, fewer symptoms of depression, a stronger immune system, improved heart health, improved self-esteem. So, Pastor Haynes, if we all got a good, stronger immune system, we just let it go, that means what? COVID would just go away. That's a prayer. That's a prayer if that can happen.
Sure.
But that's something we're going to talk about, because forgiveness is a big health issue for a lot of people who don't know. And I don't know, I think it was my mom or someone had told me, when you're being upset and when you're being angry, the person that you're being angry at probably doesn't even know you're angry. They're living their life, having fun, smiling, going to sleep, no headaches, their health is good, their mental state is good, and when we're upset, we're wind up in knots, not knowing what's going on, and we really need to let it go.
Yeah, I've heard it said that the person who refuses to forgive it's like you've taken in a poison pill, but you're expecting the other person to die.
Which is true.
And that's what it is, because you get bitter, you get angry, you're full of wrath, you just don't have peace within you when you don't forgive, and you're probably mad at someone else who did something bad to you, but you're the one who's going through all of the pain, hurt,
anxiety,
and everything else.
Headaches, weight gain, you name it. It's just so much. Holding on to a grudge is very easy, but sometimes letting it go, I think, is even harder. I really think it's harder. But we want to I asked Pastor Haynes, my topic was forgiveness, and I asked him to just go ahead and just run with it. So what are some of the things we're going to be talking about this evening?
Well, I think especially now with everything that's going on, the pandemic and everything else, what we hear on the news that's happening, how families are affected so badly. I mean, before that, people were affected anyway with a lot of things going on in the family, but it's kind of doubled now, the types of problems that we see we hear about in families, and obviously bad things happen to all people.
Oh yes,
to good people and to bad people. Bad things do happen, and everyone respond to bad things their own way, and some people are more prepared to deal with the bad when it comes, and some people are much less prepared to deal with it. And so it's really important that we at some point have a communication, have a conversation about how to deal with those problems when they arise, especially in the family, because it's really tearing families apart. And people who love each other are being torn apart because bad things are happening.
I talk to my brother sometimes, and it was me and him always joking. He's like, well, we're dysfunctional. I said, but our dysfunctional is a good dysfunctional, because we talk. We talk every day. Something is on our mind. We just say it. You know what? You did this, blah, blah, blah. Or you know what, Roseanne, you did this, blah, blah, blah. And talking and not keeping secrets. And I think when you keep secrets and you try to sweep things under the rug, I think that whoever is being affected, that's, I think, where the grudge comes up. And I think we need to speak. One thing we promote on here, Pastor Haynes, is that mental health. We promote speaking to individuals, having a counselor, speaking to a shrink, speaking to someone. We put it as a good thing, because there's nothing wrong with that. And I think different families think that when you go and talk outside, you're sharing your business. And I don't think that's necessarily true. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, here is what I know. As a pastor, I listen to people's issues with family and with other matters, and I realize that people are hurting even when we do not know that they are hurting. So there are so many different ways that we can deal with this issue. I want to say right off, if you're a church-going person, if you're a believer, you should talk to your pastor. You should find someone in your church whom you could talk to help guide you through the pain and the hurt that you're going through. And too often people, we just don't want to discuss those things. We just, because they are so painful that we don't want to discuss it.
Or you don't want anyone to think that you have that problem.
Right. And when you do this, what you're doing is hurting yourself even more, because now you're the only one who's bearing this pain. Whereas if you can find some confidential person whom you can speak with on this matter, then they can help you bear that pain. It becomes lighter if you can talk to someone about it. And in fact, the very fact of speaking about what's hurting you is a way of releasing some of the
burden.
Pain and the hurt that
goes
with it.
It's like having two tires on each shoulder, and talking to someone, they start to take them off one by one, and then that pain, that slumping, that can't move, that can't eat, that can't everything, it releases that, and that's a good feeling when you can speak to someone. So what else, Pastor Haynes?
Well, here is what I think. First of all, if you need help, if you're hurting, if someone is doing something to you or has done something to you, or for some reason you are hurting for whatever has been done or said, find help. Try to find help right away. Like I said before, your pastor. Find help from God, for goodness sake.
Yes.
You know, I mean, he's available.
Listen,
he's available to all of us, 24 hours a day.
7 days a week.
Find a professional person who is trained to help you in that area. And you may find that there is much more help out there than you think there is.
Well, it is. We had, when we first had our show, I believe it was Cliff, our first show was New Horizons. And one thing that I learned, and we were so happy that our listeners learned that too. We have 211, which you know, and 211 through New Horizons and other counselors that work with 211. If something is wrong, they will speak with you on the phone, or they will even come to your home, and it is no cost. So if you feel that you can't speak to someone, or you can't speak to a friend or a relative, or if you can't speak to your pastor. Now, Pastor, I'm going to say something on that. If you're going to a church, this is Roxy's belief. If you're going to a church and you feel you can't talk to your pastor, find a new church.
I completely agree.
I think so.
Because your pastor is supposed to be there to help guide you.
Correct.
And help guide you not only in religious matters, but in life in general. And of course, if you can't confide certain things in your pastor, and of course there's certain things that are deeply personal that you can't confide with anyone, not even with your spouse.
Right.
But if you have something that could reach your pastor and you choose not to say it or not to discuss it in a good way, then something's missing.
Something's missing.
Yes.
Well, Cliff, I just want to let you know, it's just me, you, and Pastor Haynes. So I just want to let us three know I am his favorite in the church.
Oh, okay. I used to be a teacher's pet once.
You used to be a teacher's pet. Well, no, I'm a pastor's pet, just to let you know, because I love my church. And I think when you have a pastor, you have someone that you can confide in and you can talk to and gives good advice, not partial advice. Good. That's what you need. You need that. So if you're looking for a church home and you haven't found one, check us out. We're going to have the information. Cliff will put it up on YouTube. All that information will be there. And just come and just see what we're about, because it's not only for the body, it's not only for the mind, but it's also for the soul. You need to be, full circle, balance and full circle. So forgiveness on healthy relationships for the family. That is true, because when I look through the news, I see a lot going on. And I see mothers killing children. I see children killing mothers. I see so much. For the last 2.5 weeks, Cliff and Pastor Haynes, I have not turned on the news because it's just so depressing. So depressing. And you see what's happening in families. And that's why I wanted to do this, because imagine if they had someone to talk to. Just someone to go and say, you know what, Cliff, something's bothering me. What should I do? It would have made the difference by going to someone you trust. Now, not going to someone that is going to just poke the fire, because you have friends and when your friends are going to poke the fire. I have a good friend. If I tell her something, I know she's going to poke the fire. So me and her are not going to talk about something serious, because she's just going to push me on. if I'm at the cliff, she's going to help me go over the cliff.
And beware of the mama bear.
Oh, yes, I got that little side mama bear. But if you have someone you can talk to, a lot of tragedies that are happening in families can heal. It's about talking. So the next one, forgiveness heals relationships.
So let's talk about some of the problems that create stress, negative stress in the family. And many times those things go unaddressed. No one wants to talk about them. They are not addressed. A lot of times these things are covered up within the families.
Yes.
And what they do, actually, it's like a fire that's covered up and it's burning. And
you
it's
only
just
hear about it during the funeral.
Right, and it's only going to keep burning and burning and burning. So I want to mention a few of the things that I know that can really bring some negative stress on a family. You have abuse and addictions.
Yes.
Those are two big factors.
And especially with the pandemic and children were left home and left with different relatives, the numbers have skyrocketed.
There's a lot of that happening, unfortunately, within the family unit. Changes to the family. Because of economy and other things, jobs and everything else, we know about children moving back home at a very high level. Parents moving in with children. Those dynamics that change the structure of the home can be very stressful. When a child goes back home, the child goes home, and then you have the generational divide. Obviously, the younger people, have a different way of
outlook,
a different view of the world.
But you're going to your mama's house, and mama and daddy have rules, and you have doesn't matter where you move, you have to curtail to those rules.
Doesn't matter how old you get either. You get all grown up, doesn't count.
Doesn't matter. Well, it doesn't matter how old I am. When my mom speaks, I just stay at attention. Pastor knows my mom. She could be wrong, and I will not tell her. I will not correct her.
And there's something called respect that I think
we're missing.
Is lost on a number of us.
Lost is not the word. It's just vanished.
It's vanished. It's just not there.
Yeah.
Maybe concealed.
No, I think it's lost. It's lost because I think discipline. You can't discipline your child with love the way you used to. That's number one. If the minute society has given children the okay, if you hit me, I'm going to call 911. And when you have that threat, I think, hanging over you. See, I told my mom, Dad, I think I was, 13, 14, and my mom went ahead anyway. She said, call him. I'll dial the number for you. So, I think back then it was a little different than it is now. And the good thing about it is November is going to be our law enforcement month. So we're going to have the sheriff's office, Port Saint Lucie office, the Fort Pierce office, Pastor Haynes, and that's one of the questions I want to ask. When you come to a home and a child has called, and you know that parent has the right to discipline that child, because you spare the rod, you spoil the child. I'm quoting the Bible, everybody. Where is that passage taken from?
It's somewhere in the Proverbs.
Somewhere in the Proverbs. There we go. So
a lot of good stuff in the Proverbs.
Yes. So when you when you come to that home, what do you do? Because, like we said, respect is lost. And it's lost, but we're diverting, so we're going to go back.
Right.
Go ahead, Pastor Haynes.
Well, these are some of the things that create stress on the family. And when stress happens in a family, bad things follow. And as bad things follow, you have people who love each other begin to pull apart from each other. And even though they live in the same house, they do not come together the way they are supposed to. They do not communicate on the level they are supposed to. And those things are becoming real issues in the family unit today. And that's probably one of the reasons we are seeing so much hate and crime within the family unit. And we're hearing of all these terrible things that are happening between people who supposedly love each other, people who are in love, people who are married, people who are going to get married, mothers and parents and children, and all of that stuff. So there's an awful lot of stress that is placed on the family, and the way to deal with the stress is to acknowledge there is a problem, and to confront it lovingly, to confront it without being hostile to each other, without being mean, without insults, without those kinds of things, and to understand it's the only way we can maintain the peace.
Let me ask. I want to ask you a question, sure. Pastor Haynes. You said something about coming together, and there's a lot of crime going on, and we don't know how to speak to each other. Well, I'm going to ask you, we're going to go to a break, but I want to ask you this question. What is a way families can come together that they can start having this conversation? There is deep divide, there's deep hurt, there's abuse, there's addiction, there's alcohol, there's so many things going on in families. What is something that what is a way to just start? We don't have to get into it. What is one way we can just start having this conversation? This is Roxy with Careology with Pastor Haynes, and we're talking about forgiveness, healing family relationships. Forgiveness heals relationships. And we are going to be back with the answer to that question right after this message from our fabulous sponsor. Thanks, Cliff. If you could reimagine the way you buy a car, what would you do? Make it simple, make negotiations disappear, demand transparency, then experience amazing at your Treasure Coast Lexus dealer. Car Buying Simplified. Treasure Coast Lexus is a proud sponsor of Careology. Every Tuesday at 6:05 p.m., caring and supporting for our community. Car Buying Simplified. Check out your Treasure Coast Lexus dealer. How would you like to win a Lexus UX 200 with taxes paid? No car payment. That sounds terrific. Go to givecarebag.com. All proceeds go to help our local nonprofit CareBag Incorporated, where they provide access to proper hygiene to those in our community in need. We also have 2 additional prizes. Go to givecarebag.com to find out how you could win a beautiful 2021 Lexus UX 200. No lease, taxes paid. Drawing December 17th, 2021.
This is WPSL Port Saint Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
Welcome back to Careology. Once again, here's your host, Roxy Brown.
Good evening, and thank you all for listening. This is Roxy here with Pastor Haynes, and I just want to thank our listeners on Facebook, Alexa, TuneIn, and anywhere you're listening in the world. Thank you so much. We do appreciate it. And remember that we have our drawing coming up December 17th at 2 p.m. at Treasure Coast Lexus right here in Fort Pierce. And we're going to be doing that live. And we have just a couple more months, so you can go ahead and get those tickets. Just go to givecarebag.com and get those tickets. And let's see if we reach our quota. Let's see who that winner, that lucky person is going to be, Cliff. That's going to be interesting.
Well, I often hear you say that, and it goes for me too, people associated with the production of the show and CareBag and WPSL and all that, we're not eligible to participate. No, however, I think it's more fun to see the look on the face of the winner.
It is. It is.
There's a warm feeling that goes along with that that's outstanding.
The gentleman that won our TV, he went ahead and picked up his TV at Best Buy in Santa Ana, California, and he went ahead and he sent a nice message and was just so very grateful, and he was surprised. He said he never won anything in his life. So that's a good feeling. I don't have to win. Somebody else winning is good.
You got to be the first one to help them win something like that.
Well, I love it. I love giving away. So we are here, and we're talking about forgiveness this evening on Careology, and we have our special guest with us, Pastor Lawrence Haynes of Treasure Coast Church of God 7-Day here in Port Saint Lucie at 4051 Southwest Savona Boulevard. I know 3 addresses, and that's one of them. My address, my mother's address, and my church. So that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing.
Well, you know where to go.
There you go.
At least,
hello.
Yeah. When you're not home, you know.
I know where to
go. You can go in 3 different directions.
And all 3 are good.
And you'll be safe.
That's it. So we were talking about, I asked Pastor Haynes a question. So much is going on, so much hurt, so much pain, and so much people are angry and in anguish. What is a way that we could even start a conversation with family members? We don't have to go deep, but just what's a way we can just start?
Well, first, one has to have the courage to admit that there is a problem. It's human to think that even if there is a problem, there is no problem. And that's the way many of us deal with issues when they come up. So when there are problems in the family or problems, however, that requires addressing, then the first thing to do is to acknowledge there is a problem. Then you seek help, and within the family, you can talk to each other about it. You can have a time where, I know some families do have a time where we sit and discuss. If something went wrong during the day, there is a certain time that we can all get together and we can say, this went wrong, how do we deal with this, or whatever. So there are families that I know, there are family units that do have a way to deal with matters the moment they arise. Those families generally can reduce the amount of stress that comes in. It is when there is no
communication.
Yeah, when there is no communication, there is no way within the family unit to bring out what has happened. It's like you send your children to school and they get home, and probably one of the first questions you want to ask,
how was your day?
How was your day? And you ask other questions that pertain to how your day went. We don't do that much as adults. We just walk in and, if I need to watch the TV, I'll watch it. If there's little communication. So when there is little communication, there is much less of an opportunity to address those matters. So first, there's got to be communication. Somebody has to admit that something is wrong, something happened, whether it happened between me and another member of the family, or if it happens with someone outside of the family. I need to be able to talk about it with people in my family, people who are close to me, who can help me with getting this over with.
But I think what you said, communication is key. I have two families. I have one family, and I love them. Every time I talk, I know 7 o'clock, Pastor Haynes, every day. I cannot call them. They have family meeting every day at 7 o'clock, and I'm like, wow, that is great. For instance, my family, it's so funny. My brother goes to work early, so he'll call my mom before he goes to work. Call my mom usually between 10 and 11 o'clock. But if I miss that time, immediately my phone starts to ring. I can be in a meeting. I can be doing anything. It doesn't, Pastor Haynes, it doesn't matter. I got to pick up because that's our protocol. And then I have another family. Nobody talks to anybody. When's the last time you talked? Oh, where's your sister? I don't know. When's the last time you talked to her? 10 to 15 years ago. And I'm dumbfounded by that.
And there's just too much of that going on. That's
so much going on.
That's one of the reasons we have that many problems.
That's going on, and so much is hidden. So like Pastor Haynes said, communication is key, and communication is key in anything. Because the same way, it's funny. You're not going to go to work that day. You're going to call in and you're going to talk. And you're going to tell them why. But you have a problem in your family and you walk away.
Right.
You don't respect them that enough to call and say, listen, this is the problem. So having, just like Pastor Haynes said, having that first conversation, it takes courage. So sometimes we have to, pride is another show.
Absolutely.
Pride is a whole nother show. If we can go ahead and have that conversation, that would be good. It's so important. So what are some other things about forgiveness, Pastor Haynes?
Well, we need to know that forgiveness is not a negotiated item. You can't go to someone and say, okay, listen, if you do so and so, I will forgive you. If you ask for forgiveness, I will forgive. We just heard a while ago, you cannot dictate how it happens.
Correct.
It has to be something from the heart. There's got to be empathy. Whoever is, when something is done to you, if you have done something to someone and the person approaches you, you have to listen and So you've got to, there's an old song I remember way back when that says, put yourself in my place, or something like that. And
or
we
walk
need
in my shoes.
Yes, and we need to do stuff like that. We need to be able to put ourselves in the other person's shoes and get a feel for how it feels to walk that way. And I think when we miss the empathy that we need to have, that idea,
I don't care,
that I don't care thing, that it doesn't matter after all, it becomes very difficult to tread into the forgiveness piece. Because
and sorry is one of the hardest words to say.
Sorry is
one of they say that is one of the two difficult words to say.
It's hard to say, and we hear of that stuff like that in the media. People who have done things to offend a group of people or offend, and the first thing they would begin to do is to make excuses as to, well, I did this, but that was the case. That was the reason I did it.
Right.
It's almost like I did it, but I'm not taking responsibility for it. Somebody else is responsible. And I think, again, because you cannot negotiate forgiveness, you have to come straight forward. You have to be humble, and you also have to be authentic. When you do apologize, it's not just, okay, I apologize. With an attitude.
that kind of pinches me. I see when people do that. Yeah, I'm sorry, whatever. Woo.
Yeah.
That's a word that I think when you say that, you just take the knife and you kind of twist it. I'm sorry, whatever. No, it's not whatever. Something has been done, whether you're right or whether I'm right, or you're wrong or I'm wrong. It's not whatever, because that's something, I think healing, that's where I think healing needs to come in. What about people talking about forgiveness, but it's not forgiveness? It isn't forgiveness.
Well, there is something called, where you come back together and you kind of mend fences. You could literally tie the fence together, but it's not welded together. So there's no forgiveness really. It's just like, let's forget what happened. And let's move on, and you can do that. And we can all do that. One of the defense mechanisms that is used psychologically is the sublimation piece, where you get yourself into doing something else so as to pretend like this
that
thing
doesn't happen.
Never happened. Well, that's covering up a problem, and it's going to show up some other way.
That's like painting over mold.
Right.
You can paint it and color it, but trust me, it's gonna come up, and it's gonna come back worse than it was before.
Yes.
That's it. It's gonna what is something else, Pastor Haynes?
So we can't cover it up. We have to come straight up with it.
Deal with it.
We've got to deal with it right where we need to deal with it. But we have to be humble about it from both sides, both the one who has created the offense and the one who is being, who's painful about it. Because generally, if I am going to forgive you, I'm already humbling myself. If you did something to me that hurts me really bad, and I'm prepared to forgive you, I'm humbling myself.
But you know what I think also, it just came to me, a lot of the time some people might be afraid of forgiveness because of rejection. Cliff, I am so sorry what I did to you. But then guess what happened? Cliff might say, you know what, I don't accept your forgiveness. So I think a lot of it is not only being afraid, people are afraid that whoever they ask for their forgiveness is still so upset with them or still angry about it. So the next thing, they're just going to say, I don't forgive you. They're going to walk away, and you're going to feel like a fool. You're going to feel like you've wasted your time. Mud is on your face. So I think a lot of it has to do with being scared. It's ego, but I think it's just rejection. Because if I've built up the courage, we need courage. So I've built up the courage, and Cliff, I am so sorry for what I did. I spilled coffee all over your keyboard, and everyone should see his face now.
I've actually done that. Not here.
Yeah, but then Cliff comes to me and says, you know what, Roxy, I don't care. What do I do now? What's my next step, Pastor Haynes? I've asked him for forgiveness, and he's thrown me back under the bus.
Shame on me, because I've done it myself.
But some people don't think they do anything wrong.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
there are people
they're holy above holy. But you ask someone for forgiveness and they just toss you away. What do you do?
Well, first of all, you realize this person is really hurting.
Mm-hmm.
This person is hurting. Whatever you did was bad enough to hurt this person so badly that they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with it. What can you do? I can tell you what the Bible says in a case like this.
We're not afraid of Jesus at Careology Hill. Go right ahead,
Absolutely.
Pastor.
I can tell you what Jesus himself said. He said, if someone offends you and you go to them and they do not want to hear you, take another person with you. Go back to that person. Make a second trip. Take a witness with you. Take someone to witness. If that person if the person still doesn't want to hear you and your witness, then you take it to the church and let the church deal with it. Now, in this case, if you're not in the church, if you don't belong to an organization like this, at some point you have to say, I'm sorry, I did my wrong. I did what I did. I'm done. I can't move any further, because the only person who can actually forgive you is the person who hurt you, whom you hurt. You can't have someone else forgive you for what
someone else has done.
No proxy with forgiveness.
There's no proxy with forgiveness.
No
I like
proxy,
that.
yes.
There is no proxy with forgiveness, because I think it has to do with just being afraid. Or not only that, do I forgive this person, and what about if they do it again?
Yeah.
That's a good one. What about if we forgive and we do it again? That we're going to think about that, and we're going to come back, Cliff. So we've forgiven the person, and we've talked to them, and are they going to do it again? We're going to try and figure this out. My name is Roxy here on Careology, and we are going to hear from our sponsor, and we're going to come back with that question. What do we do when we're afraid? Because will they do it again? We'll be right back after these messages. How would you like to win a Lexus UX200 with taxes paid? No car payment. That sounds terrific. Go to givecarebag.com. All proceeds go to help our local nonprofit CareBag Incorporated, where they provide access to proper hygiene to those in our community in need. We also have 2 additional prizes. Go to givecarebag.com to find out how you could win a beautiful 2021 Lexus UX200. No lease, taxes paid. Drawing December 17th, 2021. If you could reimagine the way you buy a car, what would you do? Make it simple, make negotiations disappear, demand transparency, then experience amazing at your Treasure Coast Lexus dealer. Car Buying Simplified. Treasure Coast Lexus is a proud sponsor of Careology. Every Tuesday at 6:05 p.m., caring and supporting for our community. Car Buying Simplified. Check out your Treasure Coast Lexus dealer.
Welcome back to Careology. Once again, here's your host, Roxy.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming back and staying tuned with us. My name is Roxy here in Careology, and I have my wonderful guest, Pastor Lawrence Haynes, along with Cliff, because this is a 3-person conversation. And the question that we left with is, someone has asked you for forgiveness, and you have been kind enough to say, you know what, I forgive you. And as you forgive them, boom, it happens again. What do you do? And Cliff's had a good point. What did you say? You said we all are you. What we will.
Yeah. How many of us are like that anyway? Don't we make mistakes over and over quite often? And if somebody's asking you for forgiveness and then turn around and do the same thing, they're just under the same circumstances that we put ourselves under sometimes. You know, I mean, they're subject to stuff that we're all subject to things like it rains on the just and the unjust. Everybody gets good and everybody gets bad, but when it comes to forgiveness, it's a little deeper than that, because it's powerful.
Yeah. And obviously, forgiveness is hard work. It's not easy. It can be very difficult sometimes, and sometimes it's instant. You know, something went wrong forgiveness is asked for and forgiveness is given, and we move on and we never have to deal with this anymore. But your question is, when it happens again, after you have forgiven this person, I guess you need to tap into that same energy, that same positive energy that caused you to forgive in the first place. I'll go back to Jesus. They ask, how many times should my brother offend me and I forgive him? Is it until 7 times? And he says, no, until 70 times 7.
And Junior's up. My husband's always telling me you can't count.
That's 449 times.
I know. One time he said something to me, and I said, "Listen, we've passed 500." Junior said it wasn't meant to count.
And it's probably not just the number, but it's the importance of the number. It's what it meant to them at that time. What does the number 490 represent to those people over 2,000 years ago?
Right.
It had to have a special meaning. And it's not necessarily that Jesus was saying, somebody can offend you 490 times and they can do it over and over again. But I think the point here is forgiveness sometimes can be very difficult, can be very hard work, and you just need to stay the course, because what it does is it gives you freedom from the pain and the hurt that it causes. When you can forgive someone more than one time, you can literally pat yourself on the back and say you've done a pretty good job. I mean, yeah, amen. Yeah, that's pretty good. So, but it can be hard, and I don't think there is any way to put it otherwise, because nobody wants to be hurt the same way.
No one.
Twice. No. Once you deal with it, and it's over with, it's like you say, I'm going to feed you with a long spoon. I will not get too close to you because you're probably going to bite me again.
You're lucky you're using a long spoon. It's like I know someone, I think you know them also, Pastor Haynes, and she has I think it's her half daughter or her stepdaughter, and she just had a lot of problems with her. But apparently I was talking with her, and she reached out to invite her over to Thanksgiving. Isn't that nice?
That's wonderful.
And in the conversation, she told me, she said, they asked if they can spend the weekend. I said, what did you say? She said, 1 day at a time. 1 day at a time. Yeah. And that's what it should be. Yeah. You take 1 day at a time, because you don't know it's hurtful, it's painful, but you take 1 day at a time and you start with that.
And I'm just hoping that these people can come together once they get together,
that's the food,
and say, hey, let's deal with something here that we need to talk about, and let's try to do that. And I think it's a good way to do it. Yeah. Food has always been a good way.
I was just about to say that food makes everything better.
It does.
Food.
Rudy and I have had that conversation quite a few times. Make friends. What's the best way to make friends?
Over food.
Cook something.
Yep. Especially if you're a good cook.
Oh yeah.
Especially if you're a good cook, cook something, because and not only that, different cultures, forgiveness, it's also a culture thing, because you have some cultures you don't talk about it. Everyone could see it happen and no one will talk about it. And then you have some cultures where we need to talk about it. Some cultures sweep it under the rug and we'll talk about it after the person dies. So it's a cultural thing also.
Lunch or dinner though will help a lot.
It will definitely help. A cup of coffee. I'm really cheap. A cup of coffee, we talk about anything. Dinner, you got my full attention. But we can laugh and we can joke about it. But forgiveness is a serious topic, and a lot of health issues go with it. A lot of people have heart attacks over stress. Heart attacks, strokes, over stress. Nothing is wrong with them, and they have something heavy or something is bothering them, and it really pertains to their health. And that is, that it's a serious issue. Forgiveness is more than just saying I'm sorry or accepting an apology. It's free. I think it's freeing yourself.
It is. You are freeing yourself from bitterness, from anger, from all the other things that come with.
These things fester up over time.
They do. Yeah. Absolutely.
Like your heart. You have a bad heart, and it'll sit there and get harder and harder. And actually, that's what stress does to your artery. It builds up over time until it just locks it down.
And the thing about it is, if you do not forgive when someone does something wrong to you, and you don't forgive this person, you're always watching to see who else this person is going to offend. And every time this person offends somebody else, it's like they're offending you again. You're feeling that pain all over again. And that's why we need to forgive.
And that person is going along with their life willy-dilly, healthier than you, not a care in the world, and just living free, and you're sitting back watching them. How can they be this happy? Because look what they have done. And sometimes I don't think they even remember. And sometimes
and sometimes we misinterpret something. Something happened and we didn't interpret it correctly. And we thought that it was meant to hurt us, and it wasn't. But in us, we're feeling the pain because this is how we interpreted what happened.
Blood flows through our veins, through our veins. Is there anything that else you would like to say? We have a couple more minutes left, Pastor. So you're not going to have me give my pastor 2 minutes. He can take as long as he wants. Is there anything you would like to tell us that we haven't covered? That's important.
Well, I think we've talked about the reaching out with forgiveness. And we've also, to a certain extent, talked about someone seeking forgiveness. I think it's more important for the person who has committed the offense to try to reconcile the matter.
Out.
But we need to realize reconciliation is not necessarily forgiveness. Because we can sit and talk about it, Roxy, and we can say, okay, we buried the hatchet, we move on. But deep down in me, I'm still holding on to it, and I'm covering it up.
That hatchet's in our hand, and we're just digging another hole.
That's correct. So we need to, forgiveness has to come before reconciliation. Let's talk about forgiveness. Let's put this whole thing away, and then let's work on moving forward
in a positive direction.
In a positive direction, both of us together. So that's important. The person who's seeking forgiveness must understand that forgiveness is not automatic. You don't receive it just because you say,
I'm sorry, let's go to the movies. That's not happening.
Right. Because this person is hurting. This person has been wronged. And you can't just walk up and say, let bygones be bygones. You can't do that. You need to be able to go back to this person and say, look, I know I did something wrong. I own up to it. You have to take ownership of what you did that is wrong. And you have to do it authentically.
And people know when you're authentic. They know. They know when you're swimming upstream, or they know when it's authentic. So you just can't say, oh, I'm sorry what happened, and you have to. I think saying you're sorry. I think you also need to say what you're sorry for what you did. Sometimes people say you're sorry and they don't even know what they're apologizing for.
Correct.
So you need to say, you know what, Cliff, I'm sorry that I took my coffee cup and I spilled it on your board after you told me, please no drinking in the room. Well, that's ownership.
I used to tell my kids, I apologize is not an apology.
Yeah, that's true. What have you apologized for? That's a good thing.
It's not an apology.
It's not an apology.
And I should say, I apologize, but I'm not sorry.
but that's basically what it is. I'm sorry, and just keep walking. That's not an apology. Actually, you've just put more flame to the fire.
Yeah, you've got to own up to what you did. And the good way to do that is to state what you did. Say what you did and say you were sorry for doing it. That's much better than just walking up and say, okay, I'm sorry, and then you move on.
Yeah.
And
that's not gonna work.
Forgiveness doesn't work that way.
No.
So we've got to be genuine. We've got to be authentic. And I think I mentioned this before. We got to take full responsibility for what we did, and we have to ask the person to please forgive me. Forgive me, and let's move on. And of course, make no excuses about anything. And don't try to shift the blame to someone else.
It is because that's not going to work.
And you hear these apologies out there from some people that they're sorry they got caught doing it.
Oh yeah.
You're sorry because but they said
they're sorry
I'm
they got
sorry
caught.
because I got caught.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry because I hurt you. That is it. Pastor Haynes, this has been awesome.
I appreciate being here.
So the video's a keeper this time.
Yes.
Okay.
You know what? We all hope that we can do this and Pastor Haynes can be back again, because we just don't want to educate you and give you information from resources in the community. We don't want to talk about what our politicians are planning to do and what they promise to do. We want to just, Careology is about the wellness, and wellness covers you, your entire being. And if something is hurting, now you have a chance to figure it out. If you didn't want to call 211, Pastor Haynes has been here to give you the 211, and that is what it's about. So all those that have been driving, I hope that you were truly blessed by this. And if you were a new listener, we hope you come back again every Tuesday at 6:05. You can find us on TuneIn, Alexa, and we're also on CareBag Live, and we appreciate, and Google Home also. And we also have this on WPTV TV within the next 24 hours. WPSL TV.
WPSLTV.com. That's our Facebook, our YouTube presence.
Our YouTube presence.
That's where our archives are stashed.
All our archives are there. Or you can go on CareBag and you can just go through, and we appreciate that. And to all those who are supporting us, we have Carol and Jet. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Always, always listening. And those listening all over, I get messages from Holland, Barbados, all over. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And this is Careology, and my name is Roxy. And we just want to remind everyone we have our drawing coming up again, December 17th. Tickets are done by an independent source, so you can go to givecarebag.com and you can see what we have to offer on our website, how we're helping individuals, our homeless, our families in need. And if you'd like to make a wonderful donation towards us, please go right ahead. You can get in touch with us. Our phone number is there. If you'd like to stop by our operations center right here off US 1 in Port Saint Lucie, make an appointment. We'll be happy to show you what we do and how we do it. So we are very grateful to everyone. And again, Pastor Haynes, thank you so much for being our guest. I greatly appreciate that. And we just want to remind everybody CareBag's mission to provide access to proper hygiene for the wellness of our community. And the wellness of our community is mind, body, and soul. So we are so grateful for everyone that has tuned in. And Cliff, thank you so much.
And what you're doing, there's nobody else out there doing it.
Well, so I'm an original.
They need to join with what you're doing.
Well, we hope so.
Because Careology, the science of caring.
Yeah.
And it's not only science, but it can be an art form, too.
It is. It's both.
Well, that's what we're doing. We're trying.
It's
yes.
the art and science of caring.
And for those that don't know, when CareBag, I know we have 2 minutes, but when CareBag started, I started at my church. And my pastor here and his family gifted CareBag to us. So we are very grateful that we are from this going on. January 17th is 5 years for CareBag coming up.
Really?
That is it. That's why we're doing the drawing on January
5th birthday.
Yeah. That's it, our 5th birthday. So thank you all for listening. I hope we kept you occupied and your mind open while you were driving home. And we will be back again next week, Tuesday. This is Roxy signing off. You guys be blessed, be grateful, and we will talk next week here on Careology on WPSL. Have a good night.
Careology, the science of caring. http://carebagfl.org. Check out their website. And I even see a phone number here on your Facebook page. 772-222-2399. Done it again, Roxy. This is WPSL Port Saint Lucie, the top of the Treasure Coast. It's 7 o'clock.